On May 20, 2024, a notice this meeting was transmitted to the Board of Education, and a copy of the notice was posted at the Educational Center bulletin board. Copies were also transmitted to the Millburn Short Hills Item, the Star Ledger, the Millburn Short Hills Independent Press, Tap into Millburn Short Hills, the Township Clerk and members of the Township Committee, the presidents of the PTO and civic associations, and the Public Library. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, approval of the minutes. We're going to separate the last two meetings because I think we had different attendees, so you don't have to carve out anything. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular public meeting on March 10, 2025? Ms. Bethina, Ms. Long-Richards can second. Any comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the first closed session of March 10, 2025? Ms. Longer-Richards, Mr. Reddy can second. Any comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Was that a hand, Mr. Reddy, or just? Okay. All right. I'm sorry, Ms. Schneider, what's the closed minutes of March 10th? Is that a separate one? Oh, another. Yeah, all right. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the second closed session of March 10th, 2025? Ms. Bethina, Mr. Lawrence can second. Any comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, well, we got all the votes, so I guess it was not an issue. All right, we have two presentations this evening. He's already up there. As we've talked about in prior months, we're really trying to focus on some key priorities around access, grading, and personnel. Two of the presentations tonight are exactly on those issues, so I'm very excited about that. The first one on grading, talking a little bit about the first half and the midterm grades. I certainly continue to advocate the administration put out more data so we can assess how we're doing in a very factual manner. So I'm very much looking forward to this presentation from Mr. Conley. Take it away.
Thank you, and I want to thank the Board of Education and the community for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about the progress that we've made with the high school assessment and grading throughout the first two marking periods and into the midterm grading period. So this work really began back in the spring and summertime and of 2024. Where the district really defined proficiency and established the following matrix, with above proficiency falling between 90% and 100%, proficiency falling between 80 and 89%, approaching proficiency performing between 70 and 79%, and below proficiency falling between 50 and 69%. The goal here was really to get all of our students to that proficiency level and push as many of our students as high as possible, allowing them really to demonstrate how they're doing, to align where they perform on state and national tests with how they perform in the classroom. So our focus here was to foster an instructional environment that optimizes both the academic rigor and student success. And it's really important to highlight, we want to emphasize still, we want to have a rigorous and challenging instructional program to challenge our students so they can be the very best of versions of themselves as students. In phase one, I talked about, it really focused primarily on the work that was done in the spring and summertime on the idea of creating assessment and grading guidelines. And that really kicked off in September, where we launched the whole process of grading and assessment guidelines, which primarily focused on the test corrections and the extension activities, which gave students an extra touch with content after they were assessed on it to continue the learning cycle. And that's going to be a theme that you're going to continue to hear throughout this. And that was a tough lift because many of our teachers really received this information as we returned back to school. So, a lot of appreciation goes out to our high school teachers that really took this on and did their very best to implement this with fidelity. And I think as you see going forward in this presentation that, there's a lot of great results that will come out of this. Phase 2 of this project really is what we're entering into now, which is like really looking at, figuring out what do we need to do in order to make sure our assessments are designed in a way that our students are going to find success, that they're setting reasonable expectations for our students, and that they're able to live up to the area that they do, the way they perform on state and national tests as well, both in the classroom. So just some anecdotal observations and feedbacks, from this kind of look back on the first semester. There was a major impact on our grade distribution as a result of the assessment and grading guidelines. MHS teachers worked hard to implement this, the test correction guidance, fostering a continuous learning cycle for students. Some of the student feedback that we received was test corrections and second opportunities reduce the student stress level, provides opportunity for a continued learning cycle. Some students relied a little too much on test corrections, and test corrections and extension assignments positively impact student grades. And some of the teacher feedback, test corrections and reteaching takes away from the delivery of the curriculum and instruction. Some students rely too heavily on test corrections. Reduction in students taking advantage of office hours and more onboarding time would have been very beneficial as they took on these new grading and assessment guidelines. I think you'll see a little bit of a consistency there in some of the student feedback and some of the teacher feedback. So just very high level, let's take a look at how these new grading and assessment guidelines had an impact on our student grades. So what you are seeing here is a comparison between the overall performance by department in math, science, and social studies. They are the ones that administered midterms this year, so those are the ones we focused on. For 2024 and 2025, what we see in this slide is comparing 4 metrics, the blue being quarter 1, the red being quarter 2, the yellow being the midterm exam, and the green being the semester average, which is inclusive of Q1, Q2, and X1, which is our exam grade. And we did a side-by-side with our 2024 and our 2025. So what you're looking from left to right over here, as I use my fancy little highlighter there, is 2023, 24 is the first one, and we are looking at compared to 2024-25. What we do see there is that we see an increase in our overall Q1 and Q2 grades. We see no change in our midterm grade, and we see an increase in our semester grade from 24 to 25. You will find that same pattern pretty much in science, and you will see the same pattern with social studies. Science having a little bit more of a growth in the in their semester grade, and in social studies you're seeing a little bit of growth both in the Q1, Q2, X1, which is our midterm grade, as well as our semester grade. So as we look at the semester 1 grade distribution for 2024 and 2025, we see these compared. So 2024 is represented in blue, and 2025 is represented in the red. So, and this is for our, overall grades, and you can see that there is a 70% increase in students earning an A from 2024 to 2025. Why do we see that? We see that because students are having a second touch with their assessments. But the focus of this was to continue the learning cycle, right? So in theory, students are, reviewing the material that they got wrong and going back and having the opportunity to relearn that and apply that. and it's resulting in certainly a nice increase in our grades. What the other thing that I just want to really point out is here is it's not just about the A's, right? Notice we're really seeing students push upward, and we're seeing it across the continuum of our grades. We're seeing more students in that proficiency range, which is anywhere from the B- up. I believe we have anywhere, I think it's approximately 94% of our students performed in the proficiency level or above in 2025 in semester 1. So just looking more specifically at some of the midterm grades, in math, we saw the grades stay essentially flat. We didn't see much change, and this is really phase 2, right? We need to begin to look into our midterm assessments, our assessment design, and how they are designed, and the types of questions that we're asking students, and are we aligned with the standards and the curriculum and what is taught in the classrooms. But again, essentially the same, not much change in our performance. Our math semester 1 grades, we see here a comparison from 24 to 25. We see 701 A's as opposed to 555 A's, and we see a significant change on that particular metric. In this particular area, we saw, excuse me, we saw 21% increase of students earning an A from 24 to 25. We saw a 20% increase of students earning an A minus or better, and an 18.8% increase of students performing B plus or better. What you do see, and you see that coming down, is because more of our students are shifting to the right and shifting up in higher ground. And that is also consistent with what we see over here. We're seeing less of the red and more of the blue, which represents that our students are shifting higher because of much of the work that's been done with the grading and assessment guidelines through the first semester. Okay, in science, this is our science midterm exams. And let me just get to that. In science, we also saw, just a little bit of a change in the grades. Overall, there was an 86% median average for science midterms in both years, which was 2% off or 2.2 percentage points off of the Q1 and Q2 grades for both 24 and 25. So we didn't see much change on the midterm. And again, this goes to that phase 2 work where we really need to begin to dig into why our students aren't necessarily performing so much on these midterms, but are overall performing fairly well in the classes. Some of the work that the science teachers have been doing, since the midterms, they are working with the common teachers to begin to standard align their assessments. They're looking at complexity of questions and rigor. They're also looking at the quality of questions along the way. But we did see a significant impact on the semester grades. And as we look here, we see that students had an 82.9% increase in attaining an A, 50% increase in students attaining an A minus or greater, and a 32.4% at the B plus or greater. So again, having a great impact. And again, we see that same trend where we're seeing less red, which is 2025, from the blue. So our students are beginning to shift more to the right on this metric. In social studies, we also saw a little bit of a dip in the social studies assessments across the department, but overall, our students did slightly better on a median average, where they did have an 88 in 2024, and they did have a 90.5 in 2025 on the midterms. And as we move to the semester grades, we look and we see that there was a significant impact on those grades, where we saw students performing much higher on the semester grades, with 119% increase on A's, 70% increase on A minuses or higher, and a 34.7% increase on B pluses. Social studies teachers as well are very diligent and working on the assessments and preparing for the finals, looking at the framework of their assessment, the length of their assessment, the types of questions that they're asking, and really kind of digging in so that they can look to have better performances on the midterm, on the finals than they did on the midterms overall. Okay, in world language did not give a midterm assessment, but world language did have some significant increases as well. They had 26% of their students earn an A, greater than they did the year before, 17.4% increase in earning an A minus or higher, and a 9.5% increase in students earning a B plus or greater. They also are working on assessments and assessment design, and that is a major focus in that department as well. Again, part of that phase 2 work that we're working on as we speak. And then in English, they did not give a midterm exam either, and they had one of the greatest turnarounds here compared to 2024 to 2025, with a 731% increase in students earning an A, 209% increase in A minus or greater, and 82% earning a B plus or greater. You know, one of the things that the English department really did is not by giving exams. They really used that time. They're working very hard on their process and how they are calibrating and scoring specific writing assignments. They've really taken the charge looking at the data. I think this is just a great example of data-driven instruction, where they've looked at their practices and they've put some really good pieces in place to turn around student performances. So just some points to consider. We've seen great growth through this. I guess some of the questions that I have and that we need to begin to answer is how do we minimize the need for test corrections and extension activities? Both result in additional student and teacher time and work, and that comes away from the instruction piece. So how do we find that and strike that balance? How do we get those assessments in the right space so that they're accurately assessing students' content, knowledge, and skills, and providing them the optimal opportunities for student success? And then what long-term changes to the assessment and grading guidelines should we consider moving forward? Refine assessment practices, ensuring that assessments appropriately set expectations aligned with standards and curriculum. We need a process for a continuous cycle of improvement based on student performance and data. Going back to that data-driven instruction, I mean, that's really where we need to go. We need to have that process in place where we are constantly looking at the assessments and using student performances to ask the questions. Assessments really give us three important pieces of information. One, what does it mean about our instruction? Two, what does it mean about the assessment design? And three, what does it mean about student preparation, right? And student preparation kind of ties into some of those other pieces as well. We need to continue to examine assessment design, the types of questions, the length, the amount of time that we assign students to take assessments, the alignment of standards and curriculum, and to provide continued professional development to our teachers. That is key. We can't expect them to do this without the right supports, and so we need to be supporting our teachers along the way in this process. This is heavy work that needs to be done throughout the district, but again, provide them the necessary support and differentiated instruction to make the changes and the desired outcomes that we wish as a district. So, and then just finally, there's some really great things going on at Millburn High School that I want to just talk about as part of this work. The grading and assessment guidelines, as I went through, I mean, the midterm exam weight was reduced from 10% to 5%. I think that had certainly an impact on our semester grades going up. 94.5% of our students were at or above proficiency in semester one. That's just an amazing statistic for our district to be very proud of. 80% of our students receiving a B+ or higher. Teachers, department chairs, directors, ongoing focus on the assessment and redesign, as I've talked about throughout this presentation. We've increased access to the AP courses from 2023 to 2024 by 28%, allowing almost 400 students, or 400 enrollments to go up from the year before. The waiver for 4-year social studies local graduation requirement, the waiver for the British Lit for students taking AP language, which opens up an opportunity for students to take a different course option and expand their course offerings. Freshman year grades will count towards MHS GPA starting in 25-26 with the class of 2029. The AP World History 9th grade pilot offering for 25-26 school year, AP Biology elective offering for seniors, enhanced opportunities for students, student access to higher level classes through the revised pathways programs. We have expanded pathways to calculus in junior year, as well as science pathways. We're currently exploring options for AP offerings so that more students in some of the other grade levels can have opportunities to get into some of those classes in 25-26. And we are looking very seriously at the dual enrollment opportunities, whether it be through SUPA and the Syracuse University program or through NJIT and some of the other local universities in the area to provide us just another opportunity for students. It doesn't always have to be about AP. There are other higher level courses that we can afford students the opportunity to enrich their high school experience. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank the teachers at the high school. This was a heavy lift. I think they've done a tremendous job in doing this. And I think we really need to be very grateful for the efforts that they put forward, and also the work that the directors, the department chairs, and the program committee has put in just working on all of this to get to a point where we can stand up here and be really proud of some of the work that's going on here in the district. So thank you. I'll take any questions that you may have. That's a great question, Zach, and I'm going to answer the question because some of those numbers reflected numbers below 10, and they are identifiable in the data. So we don't provide that. So actually, the data is there. It's washed, but that's the answer.
Ms. Bethina?
Thank you, Mr. Connolly. This is very promising. At least the semester 1 grades look extremely promising. I have 2 questions. One, can you remind us if we allow reassessments and midterms as well?
We did not.
Okay. And I had a second question on AP access. You said we increased it by 28%.
We did.
Is that number reflective of after the students could drop out, or was it before?
Another great question. I used semester 1 data from 2024
Perfect.
and
So it was
2025. Correct.
So it was after the dropout date.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mr. Bigman?
Thank you, Mr. Connolly. In terms of the presentation, it's a high-level presentation, but you could obviously see a change in the grades. When I was looking at the A and A- grades, it looks like they went from like a third to maybe 2/3. So my question is, in terms of looking at it by grade, 9th grade through 12th grade, is there a consistency between the grades? And then maybe also dimensionally by level, do you think there's a consistency between CPB, CPA, Excel, and AP?
I think I'd have to dig into the data a little more carefully on that. I have the data, and I probably have seen the data. I've looked at a lot of data to kind of put this together, as Mr. Finkelstein will attest to. But I would need to begin to just kind of dig that data out. But I do think we should start looking at it by grade level as well, and looking at it by courses. I mean, one of the things that I did notice throughout this, and I think it's become like a little catchphrase, there are hot spots. And there are hot spots in any high school, and there are courses that are more difficult, and maybe students don't perform well, as well, right? Our students always perform well here in Millburn, but they may not perform as well as we would like, and I think that's where we have to dig in. I think the one thing that became really evident is that there's a lot of really good things going on in our high school, and to broad brush that it's a common problem across is not something that I think we should be doing. We should be really looking at trying to address where our hot spots are in the curriculum. But yes, we can look at that data, and I can provide that for you.
Thank you. Mr. Reddy?
A couple of comments and a question. First, let me ask the question along the same lines as Mr. Bigman. Can you talk to us a little bit about the trend within each subject area across the courses and also across the classes of the same course? One of the objectives last year, obviously, it's an ongoing work, is to provide that consistency, right? And I just wanted to, for the benefit of the public, to get a sense of what that trend is looking like right now.
Sure. So as I recall looking at the data, right, and there's no absolutes here, but as I recall looking at the data, there was good consistency across courses, and when a course was lower than we'd like to see it, they were typically all the sections were lower than we would like to see it. On occasion, you'd have an outlier here or there, so we need to look at those courses, and those are what I've kind of deemed hot spots in the data, where we begin to kind of dig in and have those conversations, and we've already done that. We've started to look at that data. We've started to look at those particular courses. We were asking the questions. We're looking at a redesign of assessments and things like that. The data that you see in the presentation tonight, we really didn't see much change in the midterm exams, and I think that goes to the type of questions we might be asking, and student preparation and instruction, and I think it's not one thing. It's a culmination of everything that we have to look at. So I hope that answers your question.
Also, thank you.
Sure.
For the two comments I wanted to make was one, I think the staff has done a fantastic job of going through the process. I know it's a lot of work for your office, of course, but for the teachers, this was a huge change, and I appreciate the level of effort this needed to execute, and also for the students. I don't think this was new for them, and having to retest, I think it definitely made for a set of difficult decisions. But one thing that I find personally encouraging is one of the fears when we introduced the new process is a runaway increase in grades, and I don't see that, and I think that hopefully allayed the fears of folks that were afraid of that result. Right? The other comment I would like to make on slide 16, we're talking about the qualifying for the APs in the school year 2026-2027. I want to plug in for open access as a goal for 2026-2027.
We are definitely working on trying to make more access for sure, but everything's on the table.
Any more questions? Mr. Finkelstein?
I just should thank Mr. Connolly first for putting this all together. Like he mentioned, it's a lot of data and back and forth, and committee members asking for different versions and different views of this and that, and super accommodating. And then his department chair, his directors, for helping along all of this changes and all of what we've done through the high school, and then of course the high school staff and administration as well, and teachers, for everyone for going along with this. And it was a little pressed, obviously, early in the fall, late summer, so we appreciate that. But it was good to see certainly phase one go, I think, as well as we might have hoped it would. Obviously, Dr. Diskin said 100 times, something new like this would need its tweaks and its changes on the way, and that's definitely true. And so we're still working on that. We're just seeing the first semester data, so it's another data set for us to sort of take a fresh view of it and see where tweaks and other changes need to be made. And so feedback is still welcome. And I do appreciate that also the administration and everyone working, being so flexible and open to trying something new and then being open to changing it as we learn more. So I think thank you to everyone for putting it all together. I would say on the AP Access thing, you know, that with the new grades, the prerequisite things we changed last year, not knowing where the grading was going to shake out this year, is also going to increase access pretty significantly from what we can see there. So that will go towards that. But I think if you look at that last slide, again, I would just thank, there's just been so many changes that we've put forward, and we've gotten some great stuff done for the school, that it's an impressive list. And you know, so just thank you.
There's just one other thing we didn't get highlighted in here that I think is really important. You know, so that the access to some of these higher level classes has taken place, and you didn't see a drop off in some of the exams. And I think that's a testament to the, you know, the work that's being done in the classroom by the teachers to, you know, students that may or may not have had access before are now having access to these higher level classes, and we're still seeing, you know, the moves. So I mean, again, like, really great things going on at the high school. We need to be very proud of those teachers and the work they're doing here. So thank you very much, everybody.
Did you have a comment, Ms.?
Well, just one more thank you again to you, to the directors, to everybody who's been working on this very hard. But really, I wanted to shout out the teachers, because I know what it's like to live in that world where these directives kind of come down from above, and we're just, you know, having to change the way that we do things. Thank you for taking the leap of faith and for working really hard and doing the lift. So just an extra special shout out for the teachers. Thanks.
Thank you.
So just to add in on that, we often talk about AP access, and when we say that, I think we intend for it to scale down to increase access to all the different levels that we have in the school. It's just kind of, we've grasped on the AP vernacular. So we'll move on to personnel with our second presentation. We've been working for months behind the scene to get to organizational enhancements. I'm very proud of the work we've done. I think it sets the district up for a lot of future success. I'm sure almost everyone in the room has heard something about this over the last few months. I would encourage you to listen to Dr. Diskin's presentation with an open mind, set aside what you've heard, take in the full fact set, and then make a determination of how best we can move this district forward. So please, Dr. Diskin.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight, and certainly for tuning in for those at home to listen and learn about the organizational enhancements being presented tonight. First, let me start by saying that this district has an exceptional staff of administrators, teachers, and support staff that are dedicated to our students. They bring their heart, their soul, their passion for teaching and learning to school every day. The community has been nothing but supportive in contributing to our students' success and education, whether it be through the PTO, through the Ed Foundation, or simply just a note of gratitude to a staff member. We are clearly fortunate to be part of a district grounded in tradition and academic opportunities. We continue to respect those long-standing commitments to the education of our students. The enhancements that you're going to hear about tonight have been something the board and the district have been thinking about for quite a while. In fact, it dates all the way back, perhaps to the 2010 years, when state and federal budget cuts changed the landscape of education. Please know that these enhancements have been made with thoughtful consideration, research, and input from a variety of constituents. These enhancements are developed to ensure collaboration and communication, to ensure that there is support for both learners and educators. And as we know, growth takes time, and as you saw with our grading guidelines, there will always be tweaks along the way. I am excited about the opportunities this organization has to continue to flourish and grow. And as we embark on this journey together, and we continue to celebrate our success for the future of Millburn students. So tonight, we're going to discuss the goals, the rationale, and the process, and dive into the enhancements by level. We'll start with the why. So the landscape of education continues to evolve rapidly. Schools, colleges, and student opportunities are all changing at a very fast pace. In this evolving climate, the question raised is, what types of district enhancements would be best to ensure that we meet the needs of students, staff, and the community? While we honor what currently exists, that does not preclude the need for looking at opportunities to improve. This slide represents two types of organizational structures. An aligned organizational structure ensures that all key components, student support, staff support, curriculum, instruction, and operations, work cohesively toward a shared vision. In contrast, when individual schools, departments, or content areas operate more independently, this may lead to inefficiencies and inconsistencies of experiences. When aligned, students receive coherent learning experiences with clear expectations, and staff collaborate effectively. This curriculum is consistently implemented, and support systems for both students and teachers are strategically integrated. For the Millburn Township Public Schools, alignment enhances student success. It fosters professional collaboration, and it ensures resources are used effectively and efficiently, creating a more effective and equitable student environment. And so what were the goals? The Millburn Township Public Schools is dedicated to meeting the needs of every learner, regardless of grade level, ability, or school. We ensure a high-quality, cohesive learning experience by increasing district-wide instructional and curricular alignment. Traditionally, we are committed to expanding social, emotional, and emotional support progress to foster the well-being and success of our students. But overall, in summary, the goal is to ensure continuity and cohesion of student and teacher support by aligning the district with high-quality instruction and a comprehensive social and emotional support system. Basically, the goal, to get everyone moving in the same direction. So what was the process that was undertaken? The process began with the question which was raised. In the changing landscape of education, what types of district enhancements would best meet the needs of our students, teachers, and families while maintaining Millburn's storied educational integrity and excellence, while being appropriately fiscally responsible? Since the last efficiency audit in the district was more than a decade ago, the board made it a priority to undertake this long overdue assessment. And so, the Board of Education retained an outside independent consultant to analyze current academic structures and systems thoroughly. The consultant met with constituents, observed, and researched a variety of school districts, and came with a proposed alignment for our system. After many months, the board received this deliberative and consultative report. And after a very thorough review, and while we took into account the many possible iterations that were given to us in the report, we recognized that Millburn deserves an enhanced structure. Using this report as a baseline for the recommendation, and after spending time with some teachers, administrators, and other staff, the district considered those suggestions and Millburnized it. The focus again was the overall goal of ensuring continuity and cohesion throughout the district, so students are provided with consistent education, high quality instruction, and the social emotional support to thrive. In addition, we heard the need for teachers to be supported operationally in the buildings and receive support across the district for vertical and horizontal adjustments for the ever-evolving curriculum. Further, the goal of having counselors meet students' needs was heard through the community and the staff as a priority of need. So I will first begin with the significant enhancements at the district level. You can see here on the slide, one of the main enhancements is to have a director of student services and guidance pre-K through 12. This will increase the support for guidance and student support services and will have some oversight and responsibility for implementing counseling curriculum, overseeing district-wide implementation of 504, INRS, standardized testing, and other student support services for the mainstream general education students. We will also be introducing a director of visual and performing arts to enhance further programming in music, theater, and visual arts district-wide. This slide represents the district structure that exists, and to the right, what is being proposed. As you can see, the enhancements will be to retitle the Director of Special Services to the Assistant Superintendent of Student Support and Special Services. This will provide, again, for greater oversight and continuity across the district in 504, INRS, Strategies Intervention, and underneath that Superintendent of Student Support Services will be the Director of Student Support Services and Guidance, as previously described. This slide represents the existing secondary model for middle school and high school. As you can see, there is a gap in content area specific to the middle school. To bridge the curricular support for both the middle school and the high school, we have realigned to create 3 content supervisors: math and business, science technology, ELA library media. These supervisors will also be responsible for any electives or related arts associated within that department. We will also have 2 PK through 12 content area supervisors, 1 for social studies and 1 for world language and English as a second language. In addition, like I mentioned before, there will be 1 supervisor for visual and performing arts, PK through 12. In regards to the counselors, we will maintain our counselors, and there will be 7 school counselors. And of course, when we think about the enhancements to the secondary level, we think about that focused oversight. We think about ensuring that there is consistency and a bridge between that middle school and the high school, as well as the continuum of services in social studies and world language at a K through 12 level. And to the elementary, this represents the existing elementary model. Currently, there are 6 elementary schools, 6 principals, and 6 instructional supervisors. There are 2 counselors for 6 schools. And of course, the child study teams support this elementary framework. Currently, the instructional supervisor's role is a very heavy lift. It encompasses building operations, student and teacher support, observations, 504, INRS, discipline, HIB, as well as content area supervision. They're also often the counselor too. Slide 13 represents the enhanced proposed elementary model. This provides us with partnered schools with a leadership team of a principal, assistant principal, counselor, and specific content area specialists dedicated to supporting staff and ultimately the students with cohesive and continuous continuity of programming. This is in addition to our child study teams. These buddy schools will allow for growth of partnerships and help to connect schools in a tangible way. We already have that happening organically in some of our schools, and we'd like to see that happen across the board. The attention to a content-specific supervisor will support consistency across schools while maintaining each elementary's personal identity. So what are the benefits? The benefits are numerous. Dedicated professionals who can support operations, students, and teachers. This triangulated structure provides the necessary supports, and schools will be partnered and will develop processes and procedures for serving both the building and student needs. The counselors will focus on SEL and supporting our students. Might I note that our goal is to increase counseling services across all schools to create a systematic approach to social and emotional learning and character education. So while we might not be able to have a counselor in every building right this moment, we look to find efficiencies to continuously add. The assistant principal will be able to assist the principal in building level instructional leadership. Along with the content area supervisor, this will allow one person to have a concentrated effort and dedication to these content areas. This will enhance instruction, alignment, and keep consistency within all schools horizontally and vertically. Thus, the assistant principals can focus on building and teacher-specific support. Slide 16 represents the new organizational chart, which would be effective July 1st, 2025. The changes are largely in the green box, some in the left pink box, and then below in terms of elementary principals, assistant principals, and the like. So in closing, while change can often present short-term implementation challenges, this process has been driven with a deep understanding that we must set the stage for future success of Millburn education and their students. We recognize the community's concern over the simultaneous departure of several key leaders. We have been so fortunate to count on these staff and administrators as peers and colleagues, and we express our deepest gratitude for their years of dedicated service. It is undeniable that their contributions have enriched our community. In this spirit, we are committed to attract exceptionally strong and experienced personnel from both inside and outside of the district. And as noted in my parent and coffee staff chats, I am committed to finding the best candidates to aid Millburn as we start this new and exciting chapter. Look, our guiding light has always been to provide our students and our families with the best education and experience. We remain committed to ensuring that our students are prepared for a world that demands innovation, sorry, I always stumble over this word, adaptability, this is the third time, and creativity, while pushing us to new heights. Our new organizational structure will always be rooted in our core mission and our values. It will infuse our schools with innovative practices, experiential programming, and a renewed focus on rigor, opportunity, and support for every student. We appreciate the community's continued trust and support as we navigate this transition together, and we are confident that this path will foster the long-term enrichment of our outstanding schools and community. And that concludes my presentation. I will note that there is an FAQ form if you have a QR or you want to take a picture, but it's also linked here. This presentation will be located on our website. We will continue to, if you have any questions or, working on those types of things, we can look to have an FAQ going out. So tonight, I bring that in front of the board after much deliberation.
Questions for Dr. Diskin? Ms. Longley-Richards?
Thank you very much for the presentation. It looks to me that there's going to be actually more support in the schools now than they currently have under this model. Is that kind of true?
So yes, that would be true. Now that doesn't mean that we added more staff. It's a net. In other words, there's no additional staff. The staff was just realigned and repurposed in order to make it more efficient. So that is correct. And the idea in the elementaries is that they will be buddied up, and that those pairings will add for collaboration between the two schools and help to align those best practices across the district. I look at it as I mentioned before, like a triangulation of support. You have your principal, you have your assistant principal, you have a counselor, and you have a variety of content area specialists, along with a child study team and the like, to support everyone in the schools.
Mr. Lawrence?
Thank you. First, I want to thank you for all this hard work. I know this has been going on for many months.
with the board and administration and to your entire team. Thank you for all the effort and time and commitment you put into this. Clearly, it has closed the gaps that we've seen over the years where there wasn't good continuity going from elementary to fifth grade to middle school to high school. There was a lot of lack of through that education and the curriculum, and this can really help us hone in with dedicated resources to really focus on our students throughout the district to ensure that they're prepared for high school. Not to mention the additional mental health support goes a long way throughout this process as well. So again, thank you for all the hard work.
You're welcome.
Ms. Shivani?
Yeah, I'll echo Mr. Lawrence's statement. Thank you so much. I know the amount of effort that has gone in, and just for everybody's knowledge, I mean, a lot of the executive sessions, we've spent late nights, we've really fought with each other a little bit also on what the ideal structure would be. And I do want to emphasize that, I mean, there's always room for enhancement and improvement, and maybe 10 years later, somebody will come and say, hey, this needs to change, and that's fine. I think some of the gaps, as Mr. Lawrence said, I'm definitely excited that, you know, this structure provides curricular support, not just for the core content areas, but also for visual arts and performing arts, and I think that is important as well. Yeah, thank you for all the work, and thanks to my colleagues as well for the late night deliberations.
Mr. Reddy?
Thank you, Mr. Hendrick. Dr. Diskin, I know this is a large body of work, and a lot of people contributed to it over the last 9-10 months. And hard hit is not an easy job, and just the word itself brings a lot of emotions and not a lot of good ones. Despite the criticality of the effort in ensuring an efficient and focused organization, I want to take this opportunity, if I may, to thank Ms. Chris Staffner, who led this effort. Ms. Staffner definitely had a share of challenges as she went through the process, but the wealth of knowledge and experience that she brought to our school district reflects, I think, in the outcome that you're able to present to the community today. I sincerely thank her advice and help to all of us, the board, and obviously your team. As Ms. Longrich has pointed out, there are a lot of new positions, and some of them obviously are positions that become open as a result of some recent announced departures. Given the wealth of experience and the bench strength we have in the school district itself, what should we expect as a community for the internal candidates? Since our staff have been exceptional, what can we hope for them as they vie for these positions? How are we encouraging that upward movement internally? How are we best positioned to take advantage of the experience and the skill set that they have had?
The great news is that we have a very deep bench, shall we say. One of the greatest things about an organizational system that has such talented educators is that you can promote from within, and you can groom, and you can move those people forward, and what we call promotional. I will say that our efforts are always to find the best candidates. I am encouraging anyone to apply for these postings that will be coming out, whether they are internal or external. We are actually going to be starting an interview process for our elementary principals, and we're going to start with our internal candidates first, and then as we need to move out to external candidates. So, I encourage those that are out there that would like to come to the dark side. No, I'm just kidding. Come join us. We have a lot of fun here. And the best thing we like to do is to support you in the classrooms and the students. So I encourage that.
Thank you.
Mr. Finkelstein?
Yeah, just one question, and thank you for all the work on this. While we could see there could be, more services for those elementary schools with the principal, the assistant principal, a counselor and instructional supervisors now focused on curriculum, so everybody's sort of focusing, which is nice, on what they do. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the sharing model, because I think that's what's new for a lot of our
Yeah.
parents, and it's been done before, and
Yep.
et cetera.
So it has been done in the past, in fact, without counselors and just instructional supervisors back in the day. So it is not something that is unheard of. I will say that in most school districts that have students with less than 500 students, there is not an assistant principal. So to include that in our repertoire is a credit to the organizational structure in of itself. Assistant principals have certification as a principal, so that there is more, there is things that they can do that they otherwise might not have been able to do as a supervisor, such as discipline or covering a building, et cetera. But most importantly, to your point, is that when we partner these schools, the individual principals and that team, we look at that as a leadership team, will work out how that is best equitable and shared. It might be that one particular day you have an incident whereby you need the assistant principal and the counselor over at that school because there is a particular need. But the idea behind it was that there would be coverage for an additional administrator and or counselor in the building along with the principal. Because you have to remember, we have those 5 content area supervisors as well. So strategically making sure that the buildings have those additional administrators, all hands on deck, I call it, to be able to support. I think one of the things that you'll see, look, we have to look out for our teachers too, right? Our teachers need to have that support. And I think having that dual model support or that tri-model support of, a principal, an assistant principal, a curriculum content person, and a counselor can be really beneficial to be able to have those resources. So it could look like something like a 3-2 model where you kind of go 3 days, the same person, we like consistency and continuity, rather than, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So those are the kinds of things that we would like the leadership team to work on so that they can best meet the needs of the students. The buildings are slightly different. And they are purposely paired that way due to the enrollment size and the ability to do that. Like I said before, should we find further efficiencies in whatever realm it would take, our goal is to put counselors in each of the buildings, and my first preference would be to put them in Washington.
Ms. Pacina?
Thank you. Echoing what everybody said, change is scary. I know that. But I think I would just like to add my assurance, or I can vouch for the fact that every single one of us and Dr. Diskin herself took every measure to do this as thoughtfully as possible. So a lot of thought went into this. And I'm hoping that at the end of this, we see the growth we want to see. There's a lot of opportunity for growth from within for, as you mentioned, like teachers and administrators trying to kind of fill the roles, having the opportunity to fill the roles at a senior level, and then better support for the teachers and the principals as well. So I'm wishing you lots of luck and thank you, but I think this was done very thoughtfully. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Ms. Long-Richards?
Yeah, so 2 things. I just really, again, I'm pointing out that the addition of the counselors is such a huge thing for us in our district. For our students to have that support is so, so important. So I think that that's just such a huge asset and such a huge it's a huge enhancement. And the other thing, I just lost my train of thought as I got into the heat of the moment. So I will, if I remember, I will come back.
Absolutely. I'm not going anywhere.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Long-Richards. Just a comment, and I have had the fortune in my career to do a lot of organizational structural work with enhancements and reorganizations, and there's no correct answer here. A lot of different structures can work. They all have their strengths, all have their weaknesses. None are perfect. The lines on this box, this took us a lot of work. This is secondary. What matters is the people. Do the people believe in this organization, and are they willing to give it a try and make it work? I think that's our task over the upcoming weeks and months to, day by day, build confidence in this organization and get all those little arrows we saw on slide 1 aligned and moving in the same direction. The structure is important, but this was easy. The hard work begins now. I thank you, Dr. Diskin, for leading us through this effort. Ms. Steffner, the directors, Mr. Conley, so many people contributed to this. So it's just my ask that we all not get in line. It's not meant to be, fall in line. Give this a chance. Give it your best effort. And as we said, I think we're very good. We will hear feedback. If something needs to be enhanced, we're open to tweaking that. Organizational change shouldn't be this once-in-a-generation lurch. We should have a system of continuous improvement. I think you'll hear that theme through everything we're doing. So thank you again, Ms. Diskin. All right, on to board committee reports. Student representatives report. I think we have a team effort tonight. Mr. Ruddy, are you first? Mr. Ruddy, or do you want to let me go? All right, go ahead. Doesn't matter.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. But before I begin, I want to acknowledge an important issue, my outfit. I did have to leave my baseball practice early to be here tonight, so I apologize for being in a t-shirt. That's not my usual formal attire. Regardless, I'm excited to share some important updates with you all. Overall, as we move forward into the spring semester, students are staying busy with academics, extracurriculars, and working through the long month of March. 2 weeks ago, the Performing Arts program wrapped up its production of Big Fish the Musical by delivering 3 incredible performances in 3 consecutive days. The show was a huge success, and I want to give my congratulations to everyone involved. Whether on stage, behind the scenes, or part of the production team, their hard work and dedication truly paid off in making the show a memorable experience for the entire school community. Additionally, this past Friday, the junior class celebrated a major milestone with our junior prom, which was a great success thanks to the hard work of our class office and, fortunately, the sun making a last-minute appearance. It was an exciting night for everyone involved, giving students the chance to come together and celebrate a special moment in their high school experience. With winter sports now behind us, spring athletics are officially underway. Baseball and lacrosse have begun their scrimmages, preparing for a strong start to the season. Track, golf, squash, and tennis are also off to great starts. There's a lot to look forward to as the seasons progress, and I'll have more updates to share in the coming weeks. But before I conclude, I want to take a moment to recognize someone who has been an incredible part of the Millburn High School community for over 4 decades. Dr. Myron has been a welcoming and constant presence, shaping the school and its students in countless ways. Whether it was solving equations as a math teacher, coaching wrestlers on the mat, or now leading our school through these ever-changing times as principal, he has always given his all to the community. On behalf of the entire student body, past and present, thank you, Dr. Myron, for everything you have done.
Yeah, Mr. Myron said he was going to sneak out right after the presentations and before we'd get him. So I guess he accomplished that task, as he usually does.
With that, I thank you, and now I'll turn it over to Zach.
Good evening, board members, parents, and our dedicated teachers and administrators. Tonight, I have a personal story that comes from the heart and is consistent with what many students are feeling and have shared with me. It was my junior year of high school, and I had just transferred to Millburn, coming from a small private school where I was struggling. From day one, I wanted to get involved and participate in school activities. I had the idea early on to run for student representative. When I approached Dr. Myron, he gave me some honest advice, asking me to consider that I didn't know enough students to win an election, as I've only been at the school for a month, and it could potentially be challenging. His advice set me on a path to figure out how I could get to know as many students as possible and make a positive impact on the student body. I started out with on-the-street interviews. My thought was to interview students on relevant topics and tell them to share it with their friends and get my name around. Once I found out that Studio 462 existed, I began to do full-length talk show episodes with some of our amazing teachers. After my first few episodes, I had asked Dr. Martin to be my next guest. Luckily, he agreed, and we had a great episode that taught me good life lessons and was inspiring to my viewers. After this episode, viewership increased, as Dr. Martin was kind enough to put the link to my talk show in his daily morning announcements. Following this episode, Dr. Martin put in a good word to former Superintendent Dr. Burton, who allowed me to interview her. Having episodes with the principal and superintendent in my profile gave me the credibility to expand my horizons and interview CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Both Dr. Martin and Dr. Keenan have shown their endless support by attending the recording of almost every episode. Additionally, my daily check-ins during lunch with Dr. Keenan are a great break from my day and help motivate me to continue working towards my goals. While they both helped me in my journey to become a successful student, I am far from the only student they have helped. As many of you know, both Dr. Martin and Dr. Keenan are found constantly in the halls connecting with students on a personal level. I can't imagine over their decades of committed service to MHS how many other students have a similar story as I do. I want to thank both Dr. Martin and Dr. Keenan personally for pushing me to do my very best and making my experience at Millburn High School meaningful. Thank you.
Any questions for our student reps? Excellent. All right, backing up on the agenda. I didn't have anything to say tonight. That's why I skipped over me, but I do apologize, Ms. Diskin. I also skipped over you, Dr. Diskin.
No worries. Gave me a little bit of break to, so. All right, so good evening. I just want to update everyone on the principal search. As I mentioned, the principal search for the elementary schools are underway, and our first set of interviews are happening on March 27th. March, Music in Our Schools. I had the opportunity to attend that high school musical, Big Fish, a very touching and moving musical telling the story of the reconnection of a father and his son. Just a shout out and a congratulations to the amazing cast, from a character on stilts to mermaids and circus performers. I'd also like to mention a farewell to all of our senior actors, but especially to the leads, John Allen as Edward, the father, and Ben Cipher as Will, the son. Mark your calendar for the annual Millburn High School Pops concert, which is going to be this Thursday, March 27th at 7:30. Autism Awareness Month. Every April, schools throughout New Jersey participate in school-wide and community activities to commemorate Autism Awareness Month. In support and recognition of students with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, the New Jersey Department of Education Office of Special Education is promoting awareness of ASD during the month of April as an opportunity for educators, students, and parents to learn more about ASD. Schools are encouraged to take part in fostering the ASD awareness to promote understanding and acceptance for individuals with ASD in their schools and surrounding communities. It also encourages schools to celebrate the diversity and unique contributions individuals with ASD make daily in the classroom. There will be a variety of activities going on in our schools to recognize this month. And one upcoming is the Millburn baseball team and the Unified Club are holding their 9th annual Autism Neurodiversity Acceptance Game and Polar Plunge, or the Ice Bucket Dump, on Thursday, April 3rd versus Columbia to celebrate Autism Neurodiversity Awareness, Acceptance, and Support Month. 3:15 is the Polar Plunge, and 4 o'clock is the game. This fundraiser for two causes important, this fundraiser with Coach Askins and Coach Chapman. It's a joint autism-related fundraiser. It's $10 per raffle ticket, and Coach Askins will be raising money for the Unified Sports, while Coach Chapman is raising money for the Teamwork Unlimited Foundation. The Millers will be participating in the Teamwork Unlimited Autism Awareness Tournament later in April. 4 randomly selected donors will have the honor of dumping ice water on their favorite coaches. I wonder who that'll be. We will randomly select donors to dump ice water on their favorite coaches and reach out to Mr. Askins to find out how to donate. And finally, the Pomptonian Healthy School Lunch Challenge. Congratulations to Jake Essere Elmgart, named the Super Grand Prize winner in Pomptonian's Healthy School Lunch Challenge. The judges were truly impressed by Jake's creativity, attention to detail, and a deep understanding of healthy cooking. He fully embraced the challenge and went above and beyond. And as the Super Grand Prize winner, he will receive the following honors: a banner celebrating his achievement, which we recommended displaying in the cafeteria, his winning meal, spicy, smoky chicken apple bowls, will be featured in the cafeteria. And there will be a vertical garden for the school. So congratulations to them. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Diskin. Back to the committee reports, negotiations. That's still me. There was a meeting on Monday, March 17th at 5:30 p.m. Board members present: Chris Heinrichs, Asaf Farashudin, Noel Bigman. Staff present: Cheryl Schneider. Board counsel Mark Tabakin was also present. MEA members present: Louis Infanger, Danielle Green, Christina Wachowski, Cliff Shep, Katie Mitchell, Bob Smith, Sandy Technor, Robin Finkelstein. Louis Delgado from the NJEA was also present. The meeting started approximately 5:30 p.m. The MEA and the board continue to discuss proposals. We have another meeting scheduled for March 25th, tomorrow. The meeting ended at approximately 9:42 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Chris Heinrichs. I said I had nothing to say.
Oh, very good.
Everything was said during the presentations. Thank you for checking, though. Any questions on negotiations? Moving on to finance and facilities. Back to Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you. Board members present: Brian Lawrence, Asaf Farashudin, Jennifer Bethina, and Noel Bigman. Staff present: Cheryl Snyder and Dan Knight. The Finance and Facilities Committee met on March 20th, March 20th. Was that the date? Yeah, March 20th, 2025, 7 p.m., and discussed the following: finance review, discuss February transfer report and March bills list, transportation subscription busing, expected district subsidy is estimated at $190,000 of a loss. Our goal is to move forward with a fully funded subscription busing to free up resources for direct education needs of the district. Recommendation to increase fees by $100 or 6.7% and remove the family cap to create equity for each subscriber. Resolutions recommended: reviewed and recommend the following items for approval by the full board: February transfer, board secretary and treasury reports, March 24th bill list, E-rate program, of which 40% is reimbursed by federal grant, covering new data, core, and professional services of $43,458.93, network digital optics for $4,031, Polo Alto firewall licenses for 3 years, $308,000, Cisco firewall license renewal, $2,233. Meraki license renewals, 3 years, $178,463. Uninterruptible power supplies, or UPSs, for $36,685. Also, the MHS loading dock repairs, $23,575. Wyoming elementary floor replacement, $57,573. Millburn High School athletics room renovation for $32,105. Glenwood Elementary painting, $10,292. Washington Band practice room soundproofing, $149,500. The high school auditorium vestibule renovations, $8,560. The high school replacement for 5 HVAC rooftop units for $349,156. Deerfield Elementary painting for $86,428. Washington Elementary painting, $63,677. Wyoming wall repairs and painting, $19,731. Deerfield door replacement, PTO donation, thank you for the PTO, $35,314, and building automation controls for HVAC projects, $165,420. The meeting ended at 8:08 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Brian Lawrence, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Any questions? Program is next. Mr. Finkelstein.
We had to cancel our meeting last Friday.
Great progress is being made on the program committee,
I could say,
even though we didn't have a meeting.
yes, we are scheduled to meet every week, just so the community knows, we are scheduled to meet every week, we usually do. We had a couple conflicts with the org chart happening. We did get emails from Mr. Connolly on the work that we are obviously scheduling and talking about each week, so we did get an email update from him as to how things were progressing, so it wasn't 2 weeks of doing nothing. There is progress being made on fronts, and we are obviously scheduled to get back going again this week, so apologies for that.
Great report.
No official minutes.
Joint facilities, Mr. Bigman.
The members of the Millburn Joint Facilities Committee met virtually on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 at 11:30 a.m. Present were from the Board of Education and School Representatives Cheryl Schneider, Noel Bigman, Dan Knight, and Chris Dreschel. Town representatives included Alex McDonald, Chris Myers, and Chris Zimmerman. And Rec Commission included Scott Redler. There were 2 points of old business, which included the paper mill field erosion, where Mr. Knight discussed the engagement with an engineering firm and work that is going to commence this summer. Additionally, the feasibility report for the high school fields, Mrs. Schneider shared an update from the field feasibility study that the school district commissioned in July of 2024. Possible alternative layouts and pricing were shared with the township. The township and the school district will work collaboratively to determine if either entity wants to consider moving forward with the project. Points of new business included correspondence from the Millburn Soccer Club field conditions, where Mr. Myers discussed concerns with field conditions from last year and included a proposal for a walkthrough with school district representatives for this upcoming spring season. Irrigation repairs to the Glenwood, Hartshorn, and Paper Mill areas. Mr. Myers and Mr. Zimmerman discussed plans for irrigation repairs and other maintenance. And the third topic was early spring field maintenance application seedings in April. Mr. Zimmerman discussed field maintenance applications and seeding. Respectfully submitted by Noel Bigman.
Thank you, Mr. Bigman. Just to clarify on the feasibility study, we had previously shared that with the town. Was there any new information, or did they get back to us?
No, this was the first time we were sharing it as part of the joint facilities. So we just really, that's why Mr. McDonald and I were briefing them on what the discussions had been to date. And so we do, there was some indication that they are now considering it. There was a little bit of feedback within the committee meeting about the rec department thinking we should move forward. And so we do anticipate continued conversations.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for joint facilities? Governance, Ms. Shivani.
The Governance Committee met on March 19th at 6 p.m. The staff members present were Dr. Diskin, Ms. Nancy Dries, and Mr. David Bailey. Ms. Dries left the meeting at 6:30 after policy items were discussed. Mr. Bailey joined the meeting at 6:30 to discuss personnel. Board members present were Chris Heinrichs, Brian Lawrence, myself, Priya Shivani, and Ms. Jennifer Patina. The committee reviewed the legal counsel's recommendation regarding policy 2425.1, which were informed by discussions with Strauss Esme. For context, Strauss Esme provides school policy and regulation services to Millburn and over 580 other school districts across New Jersey. Our legal counsel, in consultation with Strauss Esme, the policy experts, advised that policy 2425.1 was replaced by policy 5460 in the 2014-2015 timeframe, which addresses high school graduation requirements. Policy 5460, adopted in November 2011, remains active today. This policy includes provisions for PE opt-out for student athletes, and there are no changes to those rules. Additionally, the policy outlines option 2, which allows high school students to meet PE requirements through independent study or alternative athletic activities outside of school. There are no updates to these provisions. Consequently, policy 2425.1 is considered redundant by both legal counsel and Strauss Esme and is being proposed for abolition today. The committee also noted that there was no evidence of policy 2425.1 being actively used in other major school districts in New Jersey. Additionally, the committee reviewed the personnel report as presented by Mr. Bailey and supported by Dr. Diskin. The report includes creation of new roles and responsibilities as were outlined in Dr. Diskin's organizational update and will be presented for a vote later this evening. The meeting ended at 7:10 p.m. Respectfully submitted, Priya Shivani. I do want to make some additional comments, if that's okay.
Certainly.
All right. So in in light of recent conversations that have transpired profusely over the last few days, I think it's important to make some clarifications. So while the Board of Education does not enjoy the same ability to speak about pending litigation matters of student confidentiality as members of the public, it is necessary to do so today. The board's position has remained constant. The administrative law judges, or ALJ, may determine whether a student is entitled to a medical exemption from physical education. Likewise, the ALJs may address whether option 2 is legally permissible outside of the high school. For context, the New Jersey state statute requires that every student in kindergarten through 12th grade receive 150 minutes of physical education per week unless they are medically exempt. New Jersey Administrative Code adds that for all high school graduation requirements, including PE, public school districts are mandated to provide students with opportunities to meet these requirements through alternative educational platforms, such as independent studies. This is what gave rise to what is commonly known as option 2 for individuals engaged in extracurricular or elite sports activities. While the administrative code permits this practice at high school level, there is no such provision to exempt students from statutorily mandated PE requirements for students in middle or elementary schools. Although the board does not believe this is legally permissible, the ALJ's jurisdictions to make this determination has never been an issue. The ALJs can make this determination. The court shall hear the case and make a final decision, as this matter is not appropriate for litigation in a public forum. It is important to understand that the board and administration have spent considerable amount of time evaluating potential solutions for exceptional situations outside the high school. The middle school in particular faces challenges due to limited resources for providing individualized support in these cases. Unlike the high school, the middle school does not have an athletics program. Unlike the high school, middle school has fixed study hall time. In a hypothetical scenario where middle school students are exempt from certain classes, they would need proper supervision similar to what they would receive in a study hall. However, this is only available during specific times of the day which may not align with students' exemption schedules. Allowing students to be unsupervised in the building or absent from the required number of instructional hours could lead to additional ramifications. While we strive to support exceptional circumstances and offer flexibility while possible, constraints such as limited resources, scheduling conflicts, staffing challenges, and compliance concerns make accommodating these requests difficult. More importantly, it remains uncertain whether such exemptions can be granted beyond the high school, as state option 2 only covers high school students. Given these considerations, it is most appropriate for the judges to make a final decision in any of these pending cases. I want to conclude by saying that there are absolutely no changes to provisions for athletes in high school. So if you're a high school athlete, or if you have a high school athlete, and if you were on social media this past weekend and are panicking, please, in all caps, bold letters, please rest assured that there are no changes for high school PE requirements and no changes to the exemptions. Thank you.
Any questions for governance? Thank you, Ms. Shivani. Moving on to the administrator reports. Assistant Superintendent report. Mr. Conley?
Thank you. March 12th, we had staff professional development. K-4 elementary school teachers collaborated with their colleagues and building administrators to review data on recent math and literacy screening assessments and make learning plans informed by that specific data. At the Washington School, grade 5 teachers worked in subject area groups to create mini units for the NJSLA test in preparation for that assessment. The focus was on the power standards, and test-taking strategies were incorporated so students felt well prepared for the upcoming assessment. At the middle school, English teachers, social studies teachers, and special education teachers engaged in professional learning with representative from New Jersey State Holocaust Commission. Teachers explored resources from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum Curator's Corner. Primary sources included the Shoah Foundation's Eyewitness and Salvage pages, and a plethora of other resources available on the State Holocaust Education website. Using these materials, teachers worked on cross-disciplinary grade-level teams to develop lessons and adaptive learning activities for a variety of middle school students. Also in the middle school, science teachers collaborated in a professional development session to create standardized science CER, claim, evidence, and reasoning rubrics, ensuring consistency on grading and clear expectations for students. The rubrics detailed 4 performance levels for claims, evidence, and reasoning, assisting students in enhancing their scientific writing, critical thinking skills. By utilizing this tool, students receive the structured feedback, which fosters their ability to construct well-supported scientific arguments and improve their overall understanding of inquiry-based learning. Additionally, middle school math teachers collaborated during a professional development learning session to review updates on the math pilot, ensuring alignment with instructional goals and student needs. The session focused on evaluating progress, refining implementation strategies, and establishing a clear timeline for next steps. By creating a structured plan, teachers can effectively support student learning, enhance mathematical understanding, and ensure a smooth transition to new resources. At the high school, the high school teachers continued collaborating with their departments to refine practices aligned with the grading and assessment guidelines. And then finally, the Wellness Week. Thank you to our district wellness team, school teams, and nurses for organizing Wellness Week activities at each of the schools. The students and staff enjoyed wellness walks, bracelet making, gratitude shamrocks, and more. Respectfully submitted, John Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Business Administrator's Report, Ms. Schneider.
On tonight's agenda, there are additional approvals for spring and summer projects, as we've been seeing on the past few agendas. Some of these projects, such as the HVAC projects and the automation controls, are related to referendum projects and the state grant projects scheduled for this summer with the associated funding. Resolution M3F is for contracts procured through the federal E-rate program that provides 40% of the funding for eligible data access services. E-rate funding is available in two categories. Category 1, which covers external connections like internet access, and Category 2, which covers internal connections and infrastructure. We take advantage of Category 1 annually, but the Category 2 funding is allocated on a fixed 5-year budget with the current cycle ending in fiscal year 2025. In other words, if we did not take advantage of the remaining Category 2 funding this year, we would lose the funding. Of the approximately $570,000 in projects being approved in Resolution M3F, we will receive close to $230,000 refunding through the E-rate commitment. Resolution M3K is for door replacements at Deerfield School, an ongoing project. The Deerfield PTO has generously donated about half of the cost of the current project under consideration. Thank you to the Deerfield PTO and the entire Deerfield community for the continued support and enhancements at Deerfield School. And as mentioned in the Finance and Facilities minutes, the committee has recently reviewed the subscription busing program. With the continued higher cost of transportation contracts, which are increasing again for next year, the board is considering increasing the cost of subscription busing by $100 next year to a cost of $1,595 per student. While the board aims to maintain this as a self-sustaining program, the board has been subsidizing the program over the past few years, with the current year subsidy being approximately $150,000. If there was no increase for next year, as Mr. Lawrence indicated, we would project about a $190,000 deficit. With the $100 increase for 25-26, the subsidy should be reduced to approximately $50,000 for next year, based on the current ridership and routes. A resolution to approve the 25-26 rate of $1,595 is anticipated to be on the next board agenda, with the 25-26 subscription enrollment applications available shortly after the rates are set. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Schneider? Oh, Mr. Finkelstein.
Yeah, just hearing the busing. I guess how did we determine sort of how much to subsidize the busing from the overall school budget? How do we, whether we should spend 50 grand or 150 grand, how do we decide what's right there?
So it's really been a discussion over multiple years. The aim, as I had said, has always been for it to be a self-sustaining program. In the past couple of years, the Finance Committee, and bringing it to the full board, wanted to increase at a much slower rate, especially as there were so many changes that were taking place, and didn't increase to the full amount. So we did anticipate to be continuing to subsidize this year. It was going back to the committee with the intention of not subsidizing going forward. But again, with looking at the kind of increases we've had, we did have a fall off in ridership this year. So we did not want to increase to the full amount that we thought we needed to in order to cover the full deficit. And so this was the amount that the committee had recommended coming forward.
It's quite a lively debate. Oh, Ms. Longley-Richards.
Do you have a ballpark of what it would be for the full cost if it was self-sustaining?
I do. Need to check. So again, we do have some waivers that are in place, as Mr. Lawrence indicated. Right now, we have a family waiver that we're talking about not continuing next year. We also have income waivers. We are looking to continue those income waivers. But if we removed all the waivers, and so it was fully budgeted based on the subscription rate, we're looking at just over $1,700.
Right, thank you.
So what was the number before? It was 1,500, so it's like 150 subsidy per rider?
Approximately.
Very good. Any more questions? Thank you, Ms. Schneider. Moving on to public comments. Please state your name and address for the record. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, as there is quite the crowd here this evening. We'll be strict on the 3-minute limit. When you hear the alarm, please finish your sentence, and you're welcome to come back to the microphone as many times as you want. We'd just like to give everyone a chance for their 3 minutes first. Responses to questions and comments will be posted to the district website before the next board meeting or within 10 school days. Go ahead, please.
Jeanette Glass, 348 Old Short Hills Road. We feel compelled to expose our district's blatant legal violations, lack of transparency, and unethical manipulation of policies, actions that are harming students' well-being and academic success. Rather than honoring due process, the district is stripping student athletes of their rights while actively engaged in litigation. We fought for our son's right to PE exemption under Policy 2425.1, Independent Study PE, a policy designed to support elite athletes balancing rigorous training with athletics. Instead of reviewing his case fairly, the district forced us into litigation and is now tampering with evidence and exhibits by altering policies mid-lawsuit to its benefit. Policy 5710, amended to remove transparency and student rights in grievances. 5460, graduation requirements, altered after recent public approval with added paragraphs lacking clarity never voted on. 2425.1, the very policy at the center of litigation that protects elite athletes, is being completely abolished. And finally, Policy 0131, certified by district in 2 separate legal briefs to require 2 readings to abolish a policy, now altered without any board readings to have no constraints. This is not a procedural update. This is an outright attack on student athletes. The district is eliminating their rights while in active litigation, proving a shocking disregard for justice. District tells parents high school athletes won't be affected. Yet district's legal brief to the court states, and I quote, Policy 2425.1 only applies to high school students. So which is it? Is the district misleading the judge, or is it misleading parents? Meanwhile, current high school handbook indicates independent study PE exemptions have already been erased. Page 34 now explicitly states independent study applies to subjects other than physical education. Let me repeat, independent study applies to subjects other than physical education. Parents, please review handbooks and decide who is not telling the truth and what other changes have been implemented. The district is not protecting our students' educational welfare. It shows no interest in their well-being, engages in corrupt actions, and lacks ethical integrity. District is rewriting policies in real time to dismantle student rights, block advocacy, and avoid accountability. Their actions violate due process, the School Ethics Act, and the very foundation of justice. Our leaders' conduct has eroded public trust, and we no longer have confidence in board members whose actions are arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable, and who operate in the shadows, manipulate policies mid-lawsuit, and trample on rights of student athletes. If our district is willing to abolish a policy that is the center of legal dispute in active lawsuit, imagine what else they're willing to do against your children. Our Millburn School District failed to turn square corners.
Thank you, Ms. Glass. Next, please.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Dennis Lamb, 348 Old Short Hills Road, and I'm here tonight as a parent and an advocate, not just for my son Dexter, but for fairness, transparency, and accountability within our school district. Dexter qualified for an exemption from PE under the Millburn School District Policy 2425.1. We first sought enforcement of this policy in May of 2024. Despite all our efforts, we were met with a troubling pattern of administrative inaction, delays, lack of follow-up, and dismissiveness from all levels of leadership up to and including the Board of Education. Left with no alternative, we sought guidance from the state, who advised us to file a formal complaint. Since then, Dexter's case has been in active litigation and remains so today, because all this time, the district refused to recognize or enforce Policy 2425.1. That is why the board's sudden decision to amend the agenda for this meeting to include a first reading to abolish Policy 2425.1 is deeply troubling. This move raises serious concerns on multiple levels. First, it is highly questionable to vote on eliminating a policy that is currently an exhibit in an ongoing legal matter. The appearance of impropriety is undeniable. Second, the timing of this motion, just one business day before the meeting and coming immediately after the Office of Administrative Law set hearing dates, suggests a deliberate attempt to undermine due process. Third, and most concerning of all, this decision reveals a fundamental disregard for students' rights and well-being. By repeatedly blocking enforcement of an existing policy, then opting to erase it altogether, the district prioritizes its own convenience over the needs of the students. It prioritizes its own philosophy over that of the community for which it serves. This is not governance in the best interests of our children. This is avoidance. What other reason is there for placing this policy on the agenda at the last minute? The inconsistency here is glaring. Decision makers have failed to turn square corners, and it undermines the integrity of this board and administration. Abolishing 2425.1 does not resolve the issue. It compounds it. It signals to the community that rather than addressing legitimate concerns, the district would rather erase them. I, and probably every other parent in this community, expects transparency, accountability from those entrusted with our children's education. I urge you to reconsider this course of action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb.
Good evening, Dr. Diskin, Mr. Connolly, members of the Board of Education, Jackson and Zach. My name is Ann McKay Thorman, and I'm here with my colleague, Jane Cade. I've been an English teacher here at Millburn for 21 years, and I'd like to speak tonight in honor of our department chair, Dr. Jessica Siegel. Jess started teaching at Millburn the year after I did. We were lucky to have her join our department because she could have had any number of brilliant careers. As a teacher, she has always demonstrated the kind of dedication and heart that you only see in movies. And she still does. Her knowledge of literature and pedagogy are unparalleled. Her creativity, critical thinking, and her caring for her students are evident in every lesson and every interaction she has with the kids who are lucky to have her. I can't say enough about her as a school leader. Our department chair for 15 years, as our department chair, she's given us more than we can ever repay. She created our teaching teams, led us in writing curriculum, gave us constructive and kind feedback on our units and lessons, and supported all of us as a whole and as individuals to create and deliver the very best possible curriculum to our students. And she did all this with integrity and vision, without cutting any corners or sacrificing the real goal, fostering a community of learning and curiosity. Jess cares about Millburn, her students, and each of us as teachers and as human beings. She has simultaneously pushed us to be better teachers than we knew we could be, and supported us through change and hardship. I'm a better teacher because of Jess. I'm a better person because of Jess. Over the last 15 years with Jess, Millburn's experienced a lot. In those years under Jess's leadership, the English department has shepherded literally thousands of students through their high school journeys. We've survived COVID, virtual learning, hybrid learning. We've weathered economic downturns, changes to learning standards, course changes, block scheduling, and changes to grading policy. Through it all, I knew that I could count on Jess. I counted on her to put our well-being and the learning of our students first. I counted on her for support to teach at the highest level possible, despite circumstances. And I counted on her to care, really care, about the Millburn community and to show us with her wisdom and example how to extend that care and understanding to our students and our families. I have to stop.
You
Thank
can
you.
come back.
Thank you.
After everybody has a chance. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Thornton.
Well, fortunately, I'm here on the same topic. Good evening, Dr. Diskin, Mr. Connolly, members of the Board of Ed, parents, and my fellow colleagues, and I hope Jess Siegel is watching tonight. My name is Jane Cade. I live at 24 South Terrace in Short Hills, New Jersey. I am the parent of 4 children who have been educated through the Millburn school system. My youngest, Brendan, is presently a senior. I am also an English teacher at Millburn High School. Like Anne, I am here to recognize and thank our department chair, Dr. Jessica Siegel. For the past 15 years, Jess Siegel has been an amazing leader in her role as our chair. She is smart, kind, generous, and it is no stretch at all to say that she has a work ethic beyond compare. Jess gives her all every day to Millburn High School, to our department, and to whatever activity or committee she happens to be on. She does so with an unfettered enthusiasm. When we describe how our department functions to fellow English teachers in other districts or to people who we interview, they are amazed and often envious of what we have. Jess always gives us, her teachers, all the credit, but we know the crucial part she has played in our successes, and most importantly, in the successes of the many students who have been in our classrooms. I don't know how many of you can unequivocally say, I have a great boss, but I can. Thank you, Jess Siegel, for the indelible positive impact you have made in your role as English department chair. As both a Millburn teacher and a Millburn parent, I know how lucky our school district has been to have Dr. Siegel as a leader. And I also know that the sentiments that Anne and I expressed tonight are shared by so many students and adults in our community. Jess deserves everyone to hear this. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Diskin, Mr. Connolly, members of the board, students, faculty members, parents. I'm here to give my thanks to my department chair, Gina Watts. 15 years ago, when she became our department chair, we were a disjointed motley crew, and we became unified for one reason, Gina Watts. She is unending in her work ethic, in her support and love and passion for teaching, her support for her students and for her teachers. I share a classroom next to her, and every single day when I walk by, there are students in there talking to her, getting guidance, or faculty members getting guidance. Instead of talking about everything she's done for our department, I just really want to talk about what she's done for me personally that I have to thank her for. 6 years ago, when I was diagnosed with cancer, she was the person that I went to. She's the person who advocated for me to get support from this board for when I went on leave, to make sure that I could afford health insurance and get the treatment that I needed without worrying about my classes. She made sure my classes were covered for me. She made sure when I needed to go out for 2 more short leaves that I was able to. I finished my active treatment March 17th, 2020. You can imagine how scary that was for me as COVID was beginning. She advocated for me through COVID. She told me when I didn't feel like I was strong enough that I could do it, and then told me how wonderful I was. She was constantly giving me encouragement through all of it. And then we went through block scheduling and other changes to the district. And every time I questioned myself, she was there to tell me and remind me how much I loved my students, how much I loved being in my classroom, and that I could do it. And last year, we collaborated on something I never thought I would do. We did one Millburn Day together, the 2 of us. And she was the one who really encouraged me to follow through with that. She was the one who made it all happen. She's an amazing administrator, an amazing educator, and we have been so lucky to have her for the last 15 years.
Name and address for the record, please. Lost it, sorry. Just a reminder to state your name and address first, please.
Of course. I'm Vivaan Pandey. I'm a student at MHS. I live on 61 Spencer Drive. So, good evening, members of the Board of Education. Once again, I stand here advocating for opening the MHS gym during lunch and study hall hours. We've previously discussed the urgent need for alternative spaces to alleviate overcrowding in the cafeteria and library. But today, I'd like to specifically highlight why establishing an official paid supervisory role in the gym during these hours is essential. In past attempts, informal solutions like student-run clubs relied on voluntary supervision. This method proved unsustainable, as evidenced by the discontinuation of our lifting club this year due to the lack of an advisor. Without consistent professional oversight, student safety is understandably a major concern for the board. By creating an official paid position for a gym supervisor during lunch and study hall, we can directly address safety concerns while maximizing underutilized school resources. A dedicated professional ensures proper instruction, reduces injury risks, and provides structured, consistent oversight, ultimately fostering a healthier, more productive student body. The consistently high student turnout after school and during past lifting club meetings clearly demonstrates strong demand for gym access. With official supervision, students gain a meaningful option to improve both physical health and academic productivity. Let's commit to creating a safer, healthier, and more resourceful school environment by officially staffing our gym during lunch hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Casey Tangoni. I live at 1 Twin Oak Short Hills, and I'm here today as a parent of an elementary school child. My comments are about the presentation on the Millburn organizational enhancements. I have the following comments. I understand from today's presentation only that my elementary school, which is currently supported by a full-time on-site school principal and an on-site full-time instructional supervisor, will no longer be supported by those 2 positions. Instead, they will be supported by a principal and a shared supervisor of curriculum and a shared counselor. And it's noteworthy that it seems like from the presentation today that the shared person will be between Glenwood and Washington School. I have a concern about this because the most important part of, and what makes the current structure very effective is the fact that the instructional supervisor and the principals are on site. They are there to support the kids each and every day. I usually volunteer during lunchtime. They're always there. Pick up, drop off, they're there. Recess, they're there. It seems like that's no longer going to be the case if there is an assistant principal shared position, counselor shared position. The other thing I wanted to note is that with the outgoing principal due to retirement, this change will likely have significant impact in the staffing at Glenwood Elementary. I'm wondering if the superintendent and the Board of Education has considered that, and if they have made plans to ensure that the teachers feel supported, especially since the school's 2 leaders are seems like not going to be there next year. And the third thing I wanted to note is that I only found out about this plan today. No time was allowed for review and public comments. I hope the board can delay voting on this and provide meaningful avenue for the community to review and provide comments. And if I can make a plug for the ability to provide comments online, because a lot of us are two-parent families and are working and are not able to come to these meetings and provide comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Carolyn Rendell, 308 Taylor Road South in Short Hills. I'm the mother of 4 kids who've gone and been going through the Millburn School District. You know, I didn't come here today to talk about the department head stepping down because I didn't know about it, but I have to tell you, when you have this many amazing teachers this upset, something's wrong. You know, I come from a family of teachers. My husband's a teacher, my brother's a teacher, my sister-in-law's a teacher, my mother's a teacher. So I can tell you, when teachers are leading and teachers are taking the reins, that's usually best for the students. When you top heavy load with supervisors, from administrators, it usually costs the township a lot of money and takes the leadership role away from the people who really know how kids learn and how to do it. What I did come to talk about was the pathways. Particularly, I just wanted to address the middle school at this moment, when we all, and I know many of you, and we've talked about it when you came onto the board, in addition to opening AP access, we really wanted to also make the district and the school system more holistically friendly to students, to take some of the pressure off, to make that focus on learning and developing and not just on getting A's and getting into Harvard. And what I see at the middle school right now, it does not seem to address that. So what we're doing is we're going to offer a pilot program for algebra in 7th grade. We're going to offer accelerated math in 6th grade. We're going to have an AP history in 9th grade. That's great, but to me, that seems like more pressure. And we haven't lowered the 93 requirement to get into an accelerated class. We were telling kids that they can get a B- and they can stay, but they have to get an A to move up. And from a parent who's had kids who've had 92s and been told, no, 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 no. And they're, you know, in middle school, kids are still developing. Some kids develop faster than others. It's not a mark of their intelligence. And when you tell a kid in 6th and 7th and 8th, you're not smart enough for the Excel, it has an effect on them, and I've seen it. What I was hoping to see was an opening for a way for kids who maybe didn't get above a B- and a certain score on a standardized test to be able to take a level of algebra in 7th grade, in 8th grade, because you get really behind if you're not allowed to get on that track. Because I've seen it with an older kid who are now paying a fortune that we do not have to teach Algebra 2 because now they're behind and they're not ready to take the ACT and the SAT. And instead of seeing kids getting opportunities to be pushed up, even at a standard level class, the lid's still on them, they're still being held down, and yes, we're opening up access for early, you know, and great, they can go to MIT in 9th grade. I'm thrilled. And I have nothing against opportunity. Offer everything parents want. But please remember that you serve all kids at all kinds of levels. Okay, and so my kid in regular or CPB wants a chance to get out and they're told you have to have an A. It's really, really hard. And you'd be surprised what they can do when you give them the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rendell.
My name is Jeff Feld. I live at 11 Alexander Lane. I am the pro bono counsel for this family. I got involved in January. What happened on Friday will be a stain on this town because we had a case management conference, and what you just read was not told to the judge. I advised the judge that this morning. This is consistent with the behavior not just here, but up the street at the Township Committee. Today you just presented a major rollout of a program. Other than the people in this room, was the change of the audit and the changes told to the community? All of you said you're into transparency. I urge you not to vote on this till at least 2 weeks so that the public could understand this major change. I don't understand this. This is like the dumb project. You come in and say, we're going to do it. We're not going to tell you the terms. That's what half this community is up in arms about. We believe in democracy. We believe in the rule of law. Please take time out because you're changing, you know, with Dr. Myron, Keith Nigel, a culture. And I like to give a shout out to besides the play, yesterday the STEAM Fest. The STEAM Fest at the end had two major public forums. The first forum was talking about the DNA of this community. We are all immigrants. One person came up and she said her grandfather was on Schindler's List. What we learned from the Holocaust, and we learned right before Martin Luther King spoke on August 28, 1963, is the sin of silence. We all have to stand up and speak out when we see something that's wrong. The second forum was a group of people talking about they're in tech, what they do, and a lot of the comments this board needs to look at, because a lot of the comments contradict all your actions. There was a great person, Laura Oberdeck. Many of you discount her because she's a registered Republican. Do not discount her. She said she was a former Princeton University trustee, and she was telling everyone there, it doesn't matter if you get 1,600 on the boards, doesn't mean if you get straight A's. You had to show some kind of other interest and other passion. And I think the actors showed that to us 2 weeks ago. But also, we had a concept about mathematics. Many of you know there's a issue going on about the High Center. On September 18th last year, I spoke up at the High Center. I said it's going to come down to ultimate mathematics. Are they in the right board? Should they be at the planning board or zoning board? Do they cross the ratio? And it's about geometry. But the idea is tonight, if I can have 1 minute.
Yeah, is there anybody else in line behind Mr. Feld?
I don't see anyone.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
You can come
I'll
right
see you
back,
later.
Jeff.
Hi, I'm Alvin Butler, 128 Short Hills Avenue. Thank you for all the information you all have shared and all of the work that the board, that Dr. Diskin, Mr. Connolly, and everyone has done for kind of the changes going forward. As a parent of a student at Glenwood Elementary, I would echo some of the sentiments earlier that it's been a lot of changes that I kind of just found out about within the last couple of hours. I kind of heard things were changing, and there's no time like the present to announce it, but I would like to at least request that a formal vote kind of cementing or memorializing changes as significant as these be given a period for a little bit more commentary from parents, or a little bit more time just to get people's reactions to that and make sure we kind of have a full picture of what people feel. So thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there any more public comments for this session? We'll have another session later. If not, moving on, discussion items. There's none for tonight. Moving on to board action items. Item 1, instruction agenda items. Are there any carve-outs for item 1? Can I have a motion to move instruction agenda items M1A through G in consent agenda format? Mr. Lawrence, Mr. Reddy can second. All in favor? Can I have a motion to approve instruction agenda items M1A through G in consent agenda format? Ms. Shavani, Mr. Finkelstein can second. A, resolve to review, affirm the superintendent's recommendation of the HIB investigations for the period of No. Resolve to review, affirm the superintendent's recommendation of the HIB investigations for the period of 3/2/25 to 3/15/25. B, resolve to approve professional development requests. C, resolve to accept the funding in the amount of $16,000 provided by the NJDOE for Learning Ally Audio Solutions licenses. D, resolve to approve service contracts with AA East for substitute nursing services. E, resolve to approve an agreement with Frontline Technologies Group to provide unlimited usage for software for IEP Direct and their 504 management program. F, resolve to approve an agreement with Frontline Technologies Group to provide applicant tracking and absence and substitute management systems for the 2025-2026 school year. G, resolve to approve a master collaborative education service contract with the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey for a 5-year renewal agreement. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Bethina?
Yes.
Mr. Bigman?
Yes.
Mr. Finkelstein?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Ms. Longley Richards?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Shivani?
Yes.
Mr. Heinrichs?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2, personal agenda items. Any carve-outs? Can I have a motion to move personal agenda items M2A and B in consent agenda format? Mr. Lawrence, Mr. Reddy can second. All in favor? Can I have a motion to approve personal agenda items M2A and B in consent agenda format? Ms. Shivani? Ms. Longer Richards can second. A, resolve to approve the President's Personnel Report dated March 24, 2025. B, resolve to approve the district organizational chart effective July 1, 2025, as on file in the Office of the Business Administrator. Any comments? Mr. Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Heinrichs. I know there have been a few people that asked for a delay for vote. I think there are a few considerations here. A lot of rides on this vote in terms of moving forward with the hiring decisions that are imminent. We are in a time period where people are, that want to move, that are looking for a new job in the education sector are actually looking for a job. If we don't start the process, we are going to miss hiring some of the best people there. If you're looking to ensure that we have excellent people join us, that additional 2 weeks is going to cost us. That said, my request to Mr. Heinrichs, Dr. Diskin, and rest of my colleagues is to go on a basically a town hall type or some other kind of contact with the public to rapidly capture the feedback from the public so that we can move quickly if we need to make any changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. I believe Dr. Diskin does have a whole communications rollout plan, and we'll be meeting with a lot of groups to further socialize these changes, and obviously, yes, get feedback. If we have to make enhancements, we can do that. Any other comments? Ms. Shivani?
I want to thank Ms. Thorman and all the other teachers who came up, to thank Dr. Siegel and Ms. Gina Watts. I also do, of course, I don't know Ms. Cuchero and Mr. Gontier personally, but I know that they're fantastic teachers and just wanted to take a moment to thank them as well. So thanks to Ms. Gina Cuchero and Mr. Frank Gontier as well.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bigman?
Yes.
Mr. Finkelstein?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Ms. Longley Richards?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Bethina?
Yes.
Ms. Shivani?
Yes.
Mr. Heinrichs?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Moving on to item 3, business agenda. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Dr. Diskin, you have something to say on the personnel report?
Yes, I wanted to take a moment to recognize those that are retiring this evening. Andrew Pearl, our world language teacher for Spanish at the middle school, is retiring after 27 years. You want to stand up and we can congratulate you? Congratulations. And Ms. Donna Fraus, our elementary teacher, retiring after 26 years. In addition, Dr. Myron, retiring after 44 years of service, and I'd like to thank him for his dedication, certainly to the students and staff of the district. The students said it great you know, he is out and about in those hallways. There's no one better that knows everyone's name and rank, serial number, et cetera. We will certainly invite him back to join us on the fields like he always is. And, you know, certainly has given 18 years of exemplary leadership in that high school. He's got never-ending support. He's got students behind him. He's done an amazing job with his teachers, and we wish him the very best in his retirement, and we look forward to seeing him out and about and returning to visit. So congratulations, Dr. McDonald.
Is that everybody?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, and I thank the teachers for coming up and talking about the love that they have for their department chairs, and we certainly love them too. Everybody was offered an opportunity to move into a role, and they were given that as an option to come in on board on this new chart. So tonight we do have Ms. Doney, who is accepting of the ELA supervisory position K through 5. We welcome her. Where everybody will be housed is yet to be determined, but we can assure you that the schools will be a home base. So we hope that Ms. Stoney will continue to service Glenwood in the great ways that she has, but also spread that wealth of knowledge throughout the district. We'd also like to mention that Bobby Starita is on the agenda this evening. He is going to continue his progress throughout the 6 through 12 as our new math supervisor. So just taking a moment to congratulate them as well. So.
And just to clarify, Dr. Diskin, those department chairs who didn't accept will be full-time teachers, so we still have them in the classroom, and as many spoke, they are excellent teachers.
Yes, 100%.
So they're not, nobody's going anywhere
No, there's.
of the department chairs.
Right, correct. Everyone has a spot. Oh, I missed some retirements. I'm sorry. I had to flip the page. I'm sorry. Deborah Pizik, our school secretary at Hartshorn School, retiring after 28 years. And finally, Cheryl Horowitz, our school nurse at Glenwood, retiring after 26 years. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ronnie, is there one more? Okay, thank you. Rather have us pause and check to make sure we get it right. All right, moving on to item 3, business agenda items. Any carve-outs in this section? Can I have a motion to move business agenda items M3A through N in consent agenda format? Mr. Finkelstein, Mr. Bigman can second. All in favor? Can I have a motion to approve business agenda items M3AN in consent agenda format? Ms. Bethina, Mr. Lawrence? Can second. A, resolve to approve the budget transfers of February 2025. Resolve to approve Treasurers of School Monies Report for the period ending February 28, 2025. Resolve approval and certification of Board Secretary's report for a period ending February 28, 2025. D, resolved certification that after a review of the Board Secretary's and Treasurer's monthly financial report for the period ending February 28, 2025, to the best of the Board's knowledge, no major account or fund has been overexpended and that sufficient funds are available to meet the district's financial obligations for the remainder of the year. Item E, resolve to approve Bill Schedule 10. Item F, Millburn Township School District applies for annual funding for the E-rate program. Approve the awards of the contracts solicited through the E-rate site as listed below. Item G, resolve to accept a donation from Deerfield School PTO to Deerfield School in the amount of $12,000 to be used towards the purchase and installation of new doors. Resolve to approve a purchase agreement with Academy Instruction as listed below. Item I, resolve to approve the purchase agreement with Inline Heating and Air Conditioning Company for the purchase and installation of 5 new rooftop HVAC units. Item J, resolve to approve a purchase agreement with Northeastern Interior Services as listed below. Item K, resolve to approve a purchase agreement with Shaw's Complete Security for door replacement at Deerfield Elementary School. L, resolve to approve a purchase agreement with Siemens Industry, Inc. for building automation controls integration for HVAC upgrade/boiler replacement projects. Item M, resolve to approve a purchase agreement with Guardian Fence Company, Inc. for the Millburn High School chiller noise reduction project. And finally, item N, resolve to approve a purchase agreement with TGG Flooring for the asbestos abatement at Washington School. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Finkelstein?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Ms. Longley Richards?
Yes.
Mr. Reddy?
Yes.
Ms. Bethina?
Yes.
Mr. Bigman?
Yes.
Ms. Shivani?
Yes.
Mr. Heinrichs?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 4, policy agenda items. First reading and abolish policy. Can I have a motion to approve the abolishment of policy 2425.1? Ms. Shivani, do I have a second? Mr. Finkelstein? Policy 2425.1, independent study dash facilitation, abolished. Any comments? Ms. Bethina?
So I have a little more technical question. I think we heard today from public comments that this policy is an exhibit in a legal case. And can we have a little time to ensure that we're not voting on something that's, is there a legal implication to voting on this? Just purely from a legal standpoint. I don't know if there is something that we could take some time away off and figure it out, or is I see Mark at the back of the room. If he can give us some assurances.
Yeah, I believe our
then
attorney
we
is
can-
here.
I'm going to refrain from commenting publicly on pending litigation. If you wish to have a discussion in the executive session, that's fine.
Then I'm
Mr. Tabakin noted that he's going to refrain from public comment. We have an executive session later this evening. We can discuss it there.
So can I request to wait and then vote
Well,
on it
can-
afterwards, or do we?
Make a motion to table it until after.
Yeah, can we table this until after we discuss? Just to ensure that following all the rules.
Do we vote on that, or do we take additional comments?
Make a motion, see
I'd
if
like
there's a
to-
second, and then you
Okay.
vote on the.
Okay, so,
Can we
On that.
vote after the exec session? We have to go back into public? How would we
You
do
go
it?
back in public.
yeah, we can, that would be fine, yeah.
Yeah, so you can vote after exec session. We do always come back into public after the exec session. If you would like, if Ms. Bethina would like to make a motion to table until after, we can do that. It would require a second, and you vote on the last thing put onto the table. So if she's asking to table, you vote on the tabling before going back to the other.
Yeah, in that case.
Can we have other comments before the vote?
Yeah, okay.
Procedurally. Ms. Shivani, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I do want to clarify that the governance committee, when we met the other day, we did discuss that this was the recommendation from the council in their consultation with Strauss Esme, who is the policy service provider, policy consultants, not just for us, but for 500 other school districts. And we did also note the fact that this is not a policy that is in effect in any other school district. And the provisions of the policy are actually incorporated in 5460, which high school
Understood.
graduation
I read
requirements.
that,
So
yeah.
I do want to clarify that this is not done arbitrarily by the committee or by the board. It was in consultation with the legal counsel.
I was in that committee. I just don't remember the part about it being an exhibit or not. I want that clarity before I vote.
Any other comments before the motion to table? Ms. Bethina, I believe you have to officially make the motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to table policy agenda item 4A.
Do I have a second for that motion? Was that a, that was a half a hand, Mr. Reddy. That's a full hand. I have a second. All in favor? Mr. Lawrence, was your hand up? Okay. Carries it, right? So it doesn't matter. The motion is tabled then. Or no, the policy, the decision on the policy is tabled. We'll discuss it in executive session. Is that covered on our agenda to discuss, or can we make that audible? Right, because you have to explicitly say what we're discussing.
Say that again.
Is it covered under our
Yeah, so,
executive session
yes.
already?
So when you make the motion to go into exec session, add legal matters onto there as well.
Excellent. I'll find it. Okay. There is nothing else in the policy agenda items section. Item N, any old business? Item O, any new business? Second section of public comments, same rules apply. Please state your name and address for records. Please limit it to 3 minutes. We'll respond to questions and comments within the next board meeting or 10 school days.
Jeanette Glass, 348 Old Short Hills Road. As discussed many times by myself, my husband, policy 2425.1 is allowed to be used for children prior to high school enrollment, as even written in your in 5460, I believe. It's proved by legal counsel to be allowed to be used in middle schools. And if your attorney is telling you one thing, please ask her, because you are the client in this litigation, please ask her for the briefs from our attorneys, so you can see exactly the argument. What else was I going to say? I don't know.
Jeffrey Feld, I just have 3 little items. One, I think there should be a shout out for one of our students. I think he was an all-state fencer, first team, and to the coach that he was honored. I don't know if that's happened, but one of our students was named. I don't know what type, but he was an all-state first team fencer. As to the budget that was introduced, was it based on the changes that you adopted today? Or was it based on our original organizational chart? I don't know the answer, because if you didn't base it on this new organizational chart, I think the public should have known that during the public discussions on the introduction of the budget. Also, as to the budget, when will the official, like, which used to be in the newspapers, it might be in the item, it's like a full page list of the costs. When will that be published or posted on our website? I talked about that. Also, I don't know if you received, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, there was a National Convention of Superintendents. I sent you an article. I don't know how I got it, through Educational Week. There was 2 things you should be aware of. What the national superintendents are talking about, what are the core educational values you're supposed to be teaching, and I thought the article was interesting. But there was another article talking about the role of a superintendent. That superintendent is really a political player in a community. And that reflects on about what happened tonight, because you made a major change in policy and the structure of the school system. And that really wasn't rolled out to the community. And if you look at the National Convention, they had a panel talking about what is the role of a superintendent. And this is a question of trust and confidence in government. What we witnessed tonight, I mean, you had all the teachers talking about, you had a major change without being rolled out and told to the public. Having public forums after the fact does not work, because you've seen how it's been tearing apart this community because of the dump project.
Thank you, Mr. Feld. Any other public comments? I see none. Oh, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Jody Wiseman, 61 Keene Road. I just like to share where I'm coming from. I have a 24-year-old son with autism who was mostly out of district, but then ended up having a year here, which was just wonderful. And I have a senior graduating college, and I have a sophomore who's benefiting from all the wonderful changes that you've incorporated into the high school. I wish I had a fourth or fifth grader who could benefit from all the opportunities and the curriculum adjustments that you are putting into place. So I wish I had, I mean, I don't really wish I had everyone, but I kind of wish I did, because I really think the outcomes and the experience is just so much better for the kids. So I do think that there still can be more to be done. I took a look again 2 years after I first did about AP Access from peer schools. So I looked at Princeton High School, New Jersey College Board, which is who rules the AP classes, us, Livingston, Roslyn, and Jericho. We're still behind all of them. We're still not opening enough, and I know it says 26, 27 is what you said this year, but I still think before our kids solidify their schedules for next year, and by the way, my daughter's fine. Like, whatever she's taking is plenty, and she would have never had these opportunities until this year. And I don't even want her to take all the things that she does have access to, but there are so many kids that are right on that cusp. I also just want to point out, and I think it was Viswa that said this a while ago, that this current year, 150 kids were given access to AP Bio, and only half of them actually self-selected to take it. So if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about what our kids know about their own abilities to choose their own path, that to me, it's it, right? And by the way, my daughter would have never, I usually don't bring personally my daughter, but she would have never had the opportunity to take that class. She wants to go pre-med. It is hard as hell. She loves her teacher, who's the head of the department. She loves the class. She loves the challenge, and she would have never had it before this year. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Dr. Diskin, for coming on and thinking about student-centered policies. It is very hard to see teachers and really, really strong teachers be upset about the changes, and no one, I can't deny that. I feel terrible, but I really have the trust that our organization, our school district, is finding outside the windows, seeing what other districts do. We've always done things our own way. We haven't looked at it in years. So I have faith in you. What else did I want to say? I also just hope that in the upcoming months we create a vision and a mission. I know that was a South Ferris Shootin's platform, creating that, and I think that would help us make sure that we're all aligned with that.
Thank you, Mr. Weisman. Any other public comments? All right, moving on. Board member comments. I'm sorry, Ms. Schneider, did you want a quick response on the budget? Excellent.
Just for clarity on the questions regarding the budget, first, we cannot advertise the budget yet. We're waiting for the county approval before we could do that. But if you look at the consolidated budget document that we gave out the last time and is on the website, it's actually a lot more detailed than what gets published in the newspaper. So the advertisement will be in, right now we expect it to be in the item on April 24th, that edition. But again, if you want to see the breakdown of all the line information, it's a lot more detailed in the information we've already put out there and can be accessed on the website. In terms of the organizational structure, during the different presentations that we did indicate that the organizational structure was under discussion and that it was taken into consideration in developing the budget. The budget, a reminder, is a planning tool. It's not specific line by line of how everything's being spent. So it was incorporated, but as Dr. Diskin indicated earlier, it's more of a realignment of staff than it is an addition of staff. We do have in the budget the addition of the guidance counselor, but all of the other positions are really a realignment of existing positions. So there are no changes or implications to the budget other than really where people are being reported, not the additional expenses associated that you might anticipate. I hope that helps clarify.
All right, thank you, Ms. Schneider. Back to board member comments. Mr. Finkelstein, did you have one?
There was one parent who spoke about, middle school and the pressure there, and some things. I think we mentioned it at a program meeting that it did come up. The math comment in particular, that you can't get into algebra in 8th grade, if not with this 93, that is for the accelerated algebra, Mr. Connolly, if I'm getting this right. There is just algebra for 8th graders as well. I think combined it's over, is it 200 kids, like between the accelerated algebra 1 and algebra 1 in middle school, which is like 2/3 of our grade on an accelerated path for the state of New Jersey. So, just obviously we're sympathetic to all the parents and, trying to do what's right for all the kids that we can. But on that one, I just want to correct the record that if I'm getting all that right, Mr. Connolly, you can chime in after me. And then that, again, that policy was clarified from a sort of ambiguous, sort of vague process into something more definite. Obviously, the moves from CPA to Excel and Excel to AP, those grade limitations are something we can evaluate again and talk about. It just doesn't have to be AP. That makes sense. But, this one is not just about that. And I guess I would say in some of the pathways conversations that have been had over the last, couple months, there are these new on-ramps all through high school for kids that are not ready in middle school. So we've put a few of these into place, and no doubt, I'm sure we can do more, and we'll look at that too. But let's just to also be clear that there are now math on-ramps, I think, the directors left, but there are math on-ramps later in high school. If you don't make that 8th grade to the double accelerated level, beyond or the accelerated level, I think you can hop on in 9th grade and 10th and other spots. I know in math. And then science as well, just an example. Obviously, we have AP Bio now as an option for when you're a senior. If you decide you wanted to be pre-med later in life and you weren't ready in 9th grade to go into that in 10th grade, there's now another opportunity for that. So those are just two that are popping into my head. But we are definitely trying to create more on-ramps, understanding that kids mature at different points in their experience. So, not everything has changed on day one. I get it, but we are moving in that direction. And we certainly are moving to help the middle, call it 80% of the district, or 70, I know the top gets their due, the bottom, this is what people say, gets their attention, and we are trying to address those kids in the middle. The continuing opening of AP, that may happen in 26, 27, but we're targeting to bring those AP electives lower. Those will target the middle. So there's lots of things we're doing to try and help all kids in all different levels in the school everywhere. So we're working on it. We're focused on it. CBB, CPA, any levels, it's all in discussion, and I just want to note that we are moving in certain spots. So I don't know, Mr. Connolly, if I got the math thing right.
Yeah, no, I just would want to just add to that 3 years ago we made adjustments to that very ambiguous process that was in place. It was not very transparent. It's very transparent at this point now. It's very clear what the expectation for a student to get into the various different levels are. If I had the document in front of me, I'd recite it to all of you just for that point of clarity. It is leveled at an appropriate spot. And look, this is certainly something we can continue to look at and reevaluate. I think that's one thing we've demonstrated is that our willingness to reevaluate processes and make sure that it's serving the students to the best of their ability. So we can certainly add that to the agenda to look at.
Ms. Bethina?
I think Ms. Longley, Richard said that you shouldn't let perfect get in the way of good. So I applaud the program committee. What we're doing is great. You want to be careful. You don't want to give access without guaranteeing that the student has a safety net and a chance at success, an opportunity to succeed. I know there's a lot of focus on middle school and high school, right? But I've said this before, and I've wanted to talk to Dr. Martin as well. I think that opportunity to succeed with the access, I think we need to push it back a little bit more into elementary school. We need to build that, and I'm only speaking for math. That's why I mentioned, sorry, I should clarify. That's why I wanted to talk to Ms. Martin, is because I think a lot of kids have the aptitude. The younger they are, they have a much stronger aptitude to pick up math, higher level math, that we give them credit for. So we want to increase access. We want them to be successful in middle school and high school, but I don't think that happens in isolation. without addressing elementary school. I think we need to pull that up, build that strong foundation, because right now, people with means send their kids to Use Elite, send their kids to all these very expensive math programs where these kids are getting that foundation. Every kid, I'm not, these are elementary kids. Anybody who has the means is getting that advantage, and then they can land up in the accelerated track and succeed in that track. We're not bringing, this is an equity issue, right? So if we want to bring this opportunity to succeed in the accelerated tracks to all kids, I think we need to bulk up and bring these kids up in elementary school. If we don't do it, there's going to be an inequity. It's going to go to all the kids who are getting additional help outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Buffina. Ms. Shivani? Oh, no, you want Ms. Longer-Richards first?
It was like a perfect setup to me remembering what I was going to say earlier, and it basically is the alignment across the schools of our curriculum with the new structure. And the beauty of that, look, I actually did work in Washington School, and I experienced kids from different schools coming with different sets of abilities. And it shouldn't be that way, and experiences, and it isn't, it is not equitable. So bringing this new structure is actually going to help us align our curriculum across their schools vertically as well, okay? And I know every school was kind of functioning a little bit like an island in the past. This school did this school did this, and it was all great, but we should really be giving all of our students access and opportunity throughout the schools as we go through. So it was kind of like a perfect setup. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Longer-Richards. Did you have anything more to add, Ms. Shivani?
No, that pretty much, she said what I was going to say.
Very good. Any other? Mr. Reddy?
As I think, I don't know if I understood Ms. Patana's request. The more we create lanes, it's a little bit like in traffic, you have lanes separated by white lines. You can't cross that. And that's what we had. And we had a bunch of lanes, and if you are in that lane, only then you can go. And you can't really come out, you can't really get out. The more you create that, the more you'll feel, you'll get congestions. A better traffic flow is with the dashed lines where people can easily move across. And that's what open access will get us. If the deeper you go, the sooner you draw those white lines, the more congestion you'll end up getting. We got to think carefully about how we bring these programs in. If you are going to bring the programs in with the bright white lanes where you can't cross easily, we are going to create a congestion much earlier. And so we got to be very, very careful about how we design these programs.
So I'd prefer, this is not a discussion, this is comments. So please don't start a discussion, I'll let you respond.
I just want to clarify for everybody, I wasn't talking about tracking or creating lanes in elementary school. I was talking about improving, bringing in some of those concepts, because right now these kids, a lot of kids in elementary school are getting taught those concepts outside of school. And that's why when they come into middle school, they're a lot more prepared to succeed in the tracks. So what I was, I'm sorry? Yeah. So wherever they're getting that additional help, why not bring that into the school for all the kids? And just to clarify, that was the point. I'm not suggesting tracking. I'm suggesting bringing in those concepts that these kids are clearly able to learn outside of the school, bring them in so that all the kids have this ability to succeed in the tracks, and maybe then get rid of the lower tracks, because everybody can show that they can, do it at the higher tracks. Because at this point, only the kids with means or who are getting help at home or getting help outside, but outside of the school, are getting that opportunity to succeed in those accelerated tracks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Bigman?
On a separate topic, I heard a few words tonight that struck a chord with me. One was passion, one was care, another was dedication, and they all related to the teachers and the staff and the administrators. I also heard about a lot of retirements, including one that included 26 years, 27 years, and even 44 years. So to me, on behalf of myself personally, on behalf of my family, on behalf of the board, if I could speak, I'm so appreciative, and I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to all these people that come together every day to enrich our students' lives. So thank you for that.
Very good. Maybe I'll comment and make a plea to civil discourse. I would encourage us to continue focusing on the facts. There's been some difference of opinion or difference of facts between the board and certain residents. I encourage people to do their own research and look at the facts. When we abolish 24, 25, if, whatever you want to say, go to the high school next week. See how many athletes were not exempt than there were the week before. The policy is going to be the same. Please just don't, when you hear a statement, just don't jump on the bandwagon. I encourage you to try to find the facts. And I encourage public comment. I encourage dissent. I encourage criticism of what the board is doing to keep us honest. You should advocate for your children. However, when you question my personal ethics and savage them, I think that's beyond the realm. We try very hard to get this right. This is a hard job. I just think it's out of bounds to savage us for trying to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heinrichs, for saying that, because that was on my mind. I wanted to say that. You said it more eloquently, and I really do have objection to the strong language that is used that accuses pretty much everybody on this board for not keeping student interest in mind. And as Mr. Heinrichs said, go to the high school and ask how many students are not getting exempt, and you will know that all those policies are in place. So we are not violating any students' rights. We are not here to violate students' rights. That's not, we all took a pledge to actually protect students' rights and to be a student-centric board, first and foremost. So I object to the strong language that was used, and hopefully that doesn't happen again.
All right, if there are no more comments, can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss a collective bargaining, personnel matters, and pending litigation? Ms. Bethina, Ms. Shivani can second. The discussion on this topic will be disclosed to the public at the next public meeting of the board or soon thereafter as circumstances and nature of the subject permits. All in favor? All right, we're in exec.